Hey everybody, welcome to Journey at Home. I'm Jansen and we're so glad you've tuned in today. Happy 4th of July to everyone. I hope you're able to celebrate our country's freedom with family and friends this weekend. If it's your first time, thanks for tuning in. We'd love to connect with you. Just scan the QR code on the screen or go to newtojourney.online to let us know that you're here. Whenever you're ready to join us in person, we would love to see you at the CFSB Center for one of our Sunday services at 9 and 10:30 a.m. You can find all the details at journeycallaway.com. You're going to be glad you didn't miss today because Matt's joined by a man who's got quite a story of what God's done in his life. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get started.
Well, hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us again today, and happy 4th of July to all of you. Hope you're having a great weekend and you get a chance to celebrate and remember the extraordinary freedom we get to enjoy here in America. And you couldn't have picked a better day to tune in. I can't think of a better guy to have along with me than my buddy Eddie Cook, because Eddie is one of the American heroes that's made our freedom possible. And Eddie, we'll get to that in just a minute, but before we jump into all of that, we were just having a conversation off camera. This is pretty wild. You grew up in Murray.
Yes.
And I noticed you were staring at this picture behind you, and you gave me an education because I didn't know. This is a picture of Murray back in the early 60s.
Yes.
The varsity there was a theater in Murray, right?
Yes.
And then in that picture just to the left, tell me what that building is.
That building is Cook's Jewelry Store. That's my dad's first business when we moved down here from Michigan.
So you spent a lot of time there as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. That is wild. I didn't even realize that picture was from Murray. And you said that was around, it burned down in...
It burned down about 2 or 3 days before Christmas of '62.
Of 1962. Wow.
Bitter cold. It was sub-zero weather. They had fire departments from Paris, from Mayfield, Benton.
Everybody here.
Yeah, almost the whole square almost went up.
Wow,
So,
small world.
Yeah.
That's unreal. All right, let's talk a little bit. I want to come back to your military service in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about your childhood growing up, and particularly, what kind of experience, if any, did you have with church, and what was your perception or perspective of God and church as a kid growing up?
I grew up as a Baptist. I went to Northside Baptist there at Alamo from
sure.
grade school up to probably as a teenager.
Okay.
My sister and myself, we both went. My parents didn't take us. We had other people take us.
That took you to church?
Uh-huh. And then also we went to church with our grandparents, or we spent the night with a cousin or a friend. We'd always go to church with them. So I went to several different churches.
Yeah. Was a relationship with God or your faith as you started getting older, was that a central part, or is that something that you started drifting from and didn't really think much about?
I didn't really pay much attention to it in my younger years as growing up, and mostly after a couple of things happened to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Changed my tune.
Yeah, changed your perspective a little,
Yeah.
didn't it? We'll get to that in a second, but part of your story that's amazing to me, and I want you to share it, is when you're 17 years old, you made a decision. You're part of a generation that, when I look back on, I just have so much respect for you guys and what you did. Talk a little bit about the decision you made when you were 17 and how that shaped your life for, well, up to this day, really.
Well, when I was 17, I was a senior in high school, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I always knew I was going to do it. So I just up and joined the Marine Corps.
During the Vietnam War?
During the Vietnam War. February the 2nd, '69, I joined the Marines, and I was standing on the yellow footprints in San Diego on February the 10th, about 7 days later.
You were there, you were in training? And
standing on them yellow footprints.
And
all Marines start out on them footprints.
And your whole world was different then.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Night and day.
Night and day. So you ended up serving in Vietnam.
Yes.
And that was a life-defining experience for you in a lot of ways, as it was for pretty much everybody who served there. Tell us a little bit about what that was like and how that impacted you.
Well, I was the youngest person there in '69 because I graduated from boot camp on my birthday.
On your 18th
birthday. And you had to be 18 to get your orders to go to Vietnam. So I got my orders that day with everybody else.
Wow.
We'd go into Vietnam. And within about 30 days later, I'm in the bush, I'm in combat. And I'd be in the bush for about 4 months in combat. I was wounded, I got hit by a mortar, shattered my arm. And then at the end, I caught malaria. I was medevaced out of the bush with malaria.
Wow.
And in the process, I had a friend who took a bullet for me, who died in my place one day. And that's when the malaria hit me. And he took my place and sniper shot him.
You and I have talked about this story, and I know how still to this day it's emotional for you, and it's been really impactful. you to give them just a little bit of detail. You guys rotated who took point.
Yes.
Every day, right? On working your way through the bush.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to be your day, but you weren't feeling well. Is that right?
What really happened was I was walking point one day and I was feeling really bad, and 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, man, I just went down like I was shot.
And that was the malaria.
That was malaria. That's my first malaria. I didn't know I even had it.
Sure.
And the corpsman worked on me all night long. And the next morning, the gunny sergeant walked up to me. He said, just because you fell out, you still got another hour and a half walking point.
Okay.
And my buddy says, well, Cook is sick. I'll take point because I'm next. And Gunny said, that's all right with me. He says, you blow up the bunkers, with C4 explosives. And so I turned and took maybe 2 steps, and I heard a single shot fired, and I knew what happened. I turned around, and he was laid on the ground. I mean, I shot him through the heart. He was dead when he hit the ground.
Lost your friend right there.
Yeah, and he took that. If I'd walked point that day, I wouldn't be here now. If I hadn't had that malaria attack the day before, that sniper was out there. He had me in his sights.
Sure.
And he just didn't shoot that day because I went down.
Wow. That's unreal. So the other thing, before we move on with your story, you said something the other day that we've talked a lot about your story, but you said something the other day that I don't think I'd heard you share before. And I want to talk about it just a little bit. You were talking about how there were more men in the military who wanted to be in Vietnam than there were places to be in Vietnam. And even though you got wounded, you kept trying to go back and get in there again and again. Explain what that was like, and then tell us why those men, including you, had that mentality.
Well, the guys wanted to go back. We was all Marines. The Marine Corps wasn't hardly drafting anybody in '69.
It was all volunteer pretty much.
Oh, yeah. Marine Corps is all volunteer. And when you serve with a group and you serve with an elite group, and man, you're in a fighting hole with 3 other guys or whatever, you get attached to them. They're your brothers. Mm-hmm. And when you leave, you feel like you left them down, I mean, I become a radio operator because they shot the radio operator. And we all just took care of ourselves. And once you come out of combat, it's hard adjusting to civilian or back to the military life because everything's done changed on you. And none of us got no counseling. I never had no counseling at all about the NAM.
Yeah.
So I was talking to other veterans and maybe drinking a little bit.
You're right.
Uncle Bud,
Trying to figure out how to cope with everything.
Yeah, and that's how we done it. When I was after the NAM, the veterans took care of each other, Mm-hmm. But we was just a little bit different from the guys getting ready to go over.
That's what struck me about that story is how bonded and committed you guys were to each other. How much how much you loved each other, that if you weren't with your unit, didn't matter what you'd gone through, you wanted to be back with them because you didn't want to let those guys down.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like your wife or your kids,
Yep.
you got that bond, and as you get this experience in the bush, you become a trained fighter, whatever you got to do. And if you're not in that bush, or they pull you out and they stick somebody green in there, it's just like when I first started out. You don't know. You're just walking around. You're just an accident waiting to happen.
The risk goes way up. Sure.
Yeah. So you get past them first 30 days, and you've been shot at a few times. You start getting used to it, and you start wanting a little payback. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that from that point to now, it's been a continual process of you learning how to process through your experiences. You still do some writing from time to time just to process through the emotion and the experiences you had, right?
Writing is the best thing I found to deal with the PTSD. I can sit down and write. It takes so long to write those little stories, and it really makes me feel good. And I hear from other veterans, and they tell me to keep up the writing. And I've been told I need to write a book,
But putting it on paper helps.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on with your story, but the thing I want to say is, and I think you know this, those of us who haven't served and been in the shoes of you and the other individuals who are part of our military, we don't understand the price you guys pay and what you go through to protect and preserve our freedom. There's no way we can fully understand, but boy, we're appreciative of it. And July 4th is a chance to celebrate. But I think people like you get to celebrate at a deeper level than people like me, because you know it, you lived it. You get the price that was paid for that freedom. And I just want to say on behalf of everybody at our church, thank you for your service and for all that you've done. You certainly have made the Marines proud. And as I said at the beginning, I think you're one of America's heroes, and I appreciate it.
Gonna make me cry.
Well,
He's gonna get me all choked up here. But I don't look at it as being a hero. I went and done my job. I done what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a Marine. I wanted that name. I wanted that name tag, and I got it.
Yep.
And I didn't mind doing what I had to do to earn that title.
Well, you earned that title, and that's the thing about you heroes. You don't look at yourselves that way, but you earn that title of hero as well, so thanks a lot. So you get out of the military, and from that point forward, what role, if any, did your faith, did a relationship with God play in your life? I mean, you had a lot of ups and downs. You faced a lot of challenges throughout your life. What was your perspective on God through all of that?
After I come out of service, I sort of had the silver bullet mentality, A lot of us have it, because if you survive combat, you think it's going to take a silver bullet to bring you down.
You can survive anything,
and
right?
I believed in God. I just didn't think I needed him. I could do it all on myself.
Yes.
I can do it. I've been trained how to focus and how to handle bad situations. But all that changed in July 17th of 1989.
What happened?
We had a car wreck. Car flipped on us going down the road. Ended up with a broken back. I just got out of the VA hospital and had my arm rebuilt for the second time.
Oh, man.
And I was never supposed to walk again. The doctor was flat out. I put an 18-inch rod in my back and told me I was going to be in a wheelchair, and I was going to be hooked up to a bag, and I was going to be in pain all my life. And I guess after I come out of ICU, I was in a room by myself, and all this starting to focus in on me, starting to hit home, and I just couldn't understand, why are you doing this to me? I went through hell in Vietnam. Why are you doing this to me now?
Yeah, you're just mad at God.
Oh, I was very mad.
Yeah.
Why? Just tell me why. Just take me out back and kill me. Just be done with it. Yeah. And I wasn't expecting this, and there wasn't nobody in the room with me at all. And the TV goes off, and the room gets real quiet, and this voice starts talking to me. If it wasn't God, it was somebody next in command. It wasn't no angel. And he wasn't very happy with me. He told me I was a major disappointment and I never lived up to my potential. And he just flat out told me, he says, you even think about you ever want to walk again, you're going to do 3 things. You're going to go back to school, get your degree. You're going to get rid of all your old deadbeat buddies. And you're going to clean up your life and get rid of some of your bad habits. And so that's what I done. It took me a year in therapy to learn how to walk. I went back to Murray State. 5 years later, I walked across that stage and got my 4-year degree.
So yeah, you graduate from Murray State. Well, let me fast forward a little bit because all of the experience all the way back starting at Vietnam, having to deal with all that didn't go away. I mean, you've become a very successful businessman. You've got a Corvette shop. People who love Corvettes, they know all about you. You've done a lot of things in your life, but when I first met you, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, you were still struggling with PTSD. You were at a pretty low point, as a matter of fact. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was probably the worst I ever had it. And, I went to the VA and they said, your generation, it's been 50 years since the war, and, just sort of expected.
That was triggering a lot of that emotion.
Yeah, and didn't really help me out none. And I came back home and still struggled with it bad, just zone in, zone out, was not happy, felt like I had 1,000 pounds on my shoulder.
But and, you're trying to, again, you said to me then, I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth, you've got an independent streak. You've always had, right? And you felt like I can handle pretty much anything. Bit stubborn, is that fair to say?
Yeah, more than a bit.
Yeah, so you're trying to handle all of this on your own, but it's not going very well, is it?
No.
Yeah. So at that point, this is where I met you, because you walked into Journey one day. Tell me what caused you to come to church. You hadn't been in church in
about 10 years.
Okay.
8 to 10 years.
8 to 10 years. So tell me what caused you to walk in that day. Why did you decide to come?
Well, one of the main things that got me scared about the PTSD, one day I was just sitting there having a cup of coffee, and it dawned on me, I understand why veterans take their lives after combat.
Yeah.
Scared the crap out of me, man. I said, I can't be thinking like that at all.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to do something. I'd go check myself in the VA in Nashville, and they'll give me some happy pills and send a quack around to talk to me. Or I could do something else. And I decided I needed to go to church. And I had no idea where I was going to go. I got a church a block away on the left, and I got a church a block away on the right. I didn't know where I was going to go. And it just so happened, I was on Facebook, and I seen Carla Stokes. I went to high school with her.
Okay.
She put an article on there about Journey Church. It says, unique, you need to come to it. And that's what got me to come here. Man, I pulled up, almost didn't go in, because I didn't know a soul.
Yeah.
And so, and usually when I get in situations like that, I usually always do it because it's just the way I am. I made myself do it.
You attack fear, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Head on.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and like I said, that place just blew me away that first time. I mean, the band, everybody talking to me, I didn't know a soul that first time. I thought, well, if I knew some people, it would really help things out.
You didn't tell Carla you were coming. You just showed up.
I just showed up. And then second Sunday, I started meeting people that I went to school with and I knew. And that second Sunday, I knew I'd found out where I needed to be. And I've been coming ever since.
You've been coming ever since. And it didn't take long in that process for you to realize, and I want you to share with people how you figured this out, for you to realize you'd always believed in God, but he'd never really been personal. You'd never really had a relationship with him. Tell us about that and how that came about.
Well, after Nam, I just always had that silver bullet mentality. It's just going to take a silver bullet and bring me down. And a lot of us have that, combat veterans. But that all changed on July 17th of '89. We had that car wreck, and I broke my back. And like I say, the Lord spoke to me in that hospital that night or that day.
Yeah. And then,
And I knew after that, I knew I was going to walk. I thought it might be a little more easier
than it
you know,
is.
than what it was.
Yeah.
And I knew I could get through school. You know, I went first time, I flunked out, but I was there for the wrong reasons. You know.
Yeah.
So I went back to school and got that degree and learned how to walk again.
And became pretty independent until you get to the point where you're trying to deal with this PTSD. You get back in church, and I know you and Ben Stennett had some conversations about what it means to follow Jesus, what it looks like to have a relationship with God that's that personal, where He's always there, and that seemed to click with you. How has viewing your relationship with God and experiencing that on a more personal level, how has that changed you and the way you deal with your PTSD, the way you approach your life?
Well, since I got into the church and start listening and trying to understand things, you know, instead of just listening and not paying any attention,
Sure.
but it's a lot more personal than it used to be, you know, and I'm still learning all the time, you know, I mean, I'm a little bit more at peace with myself about the PTSD.
Yeah.
And certain times of the year, it really flares up real bad, you know. Memorial Day, 4th of July, and August and September, when he's up in the mountains fighting. And it really comes on real hard sometimes. Sometimes it comes on hard when I'm in church. I mean, it will hit me hard, and I don't know. I still don't know why it
What
does
causes that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certain songs, boy, really trigger it, boy. And the main thing as older I get and more into the religion, it's just a wonder I came out of Vietnam alive.
It is.
Now, I came out by the grace of God. I come out with my dog tags and this necklace around my neck. That's all I didn't get nothing else back. And the Nam has plagued me. There's not a day go by I don't think about the Nam.
Yeah. One of the things that I know we've talked about before, and this is part of what I've noticed and admire so much about you, is over the last few years is I feel like your relationship with God has grown closer. In those moments when you're struggling to deal with all of that, I've seen you not try to do it all on your own anymore. Like you lean into God and talk to Him about it. I've seen you talk to other people about it. And I feel like, you know, you said by the grace of God. Well, you are standing here like all of us by the grace of God, but I feel like experiencing that grace has freed you up a little bit to be able to navigate through this and know you're not alone going through it. Is that fair?
Yeah, really. And talk about me talking to other people, but I got to give a big shout out to Stuart, man. Stuart, he really understood the PTSD and everything.
Yeah. Stuart was a guy you met at church.
Yeah, just that clear blue sky.
Yeah.
The minute I met Stuart, I said, I need to talk to this guy. He's all right. And he's one of my best friends. That's why I went to Africa. He says, if you want to get, he said, I explained PTSD to Stuart, and he says, you got to give back something. I said, well, that's easy to say. What do you do? He says, well, I go to Africa.
On mission trips.
Yeah, on a mission trip. I says, all right, I'll go to Africa. He says, really? I said, yeah, when we go.
And you did.
Yeah, we went.
Went for a couple weeks.
That helped me a bunch, boy. That helped me clear up when I went back and see a third world country, just as bad as Vietnam was, and how them people makes you appreciate being American and just thinking, you know, your lucky stars how you turn out.
And Stuart was right. Giving back and focusing on somebody else. This is counterintuitive, but this is what you figured out. Giving back and focusing on serving somebody else. Even when you're struggling, it takes the focus off of you and it helps you to get healthier.
Oh, yeah.
It does. Yeah, that's the power of it. Well, it's been a joy to know you, and we're so thrilled you're a part of our church. Most of all, we're so excited about what we've seen God do in your life over the last few years. Your baptism video, and if y'all haven't seen it, you gotta go find it online. Your baptism video is one of the all-time favorites of mine. This guy got a standing ovation when we baptized you because you touched a lot of people and continue to. Last question I've got for you is, for somebody out there watching this who's where you've been, it may be with the military background and processing through a lot of PTSD. It may be trying to figure out how to come back and experience God and know God in a way that's personal. Just what would you say to somebody who came to you and said, Eddie, I get part of your story. That's me. What should I do? What would you tell them?
That's sort of like the last question. It's sort of the hardest one to answer. But listen to somebody, see what they got to say. And, everybody goes through tough times, regardless of who you are. But, tell them to open up, and pray. I mean, I didn't pray for long. I'd pray sometimes, I really,
When you need something, yeah.
But, I always thought, I can do it on my own. You just give me the ability to do it,
Yep.
Give me the strength to pull out what I need to do.
Yep.
And now I pray daily now. I learned how to pray. I didn't know how to pray at first, but that's another thing Stuart taught me.
It's how to pray.
How to pray.
And is it true what you've discovered in letting go a little bit of that independence and depending on God more? That dependence has actually made you stronger, not weaker, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it's just sort of hard to give it up.
It is. It
let
is.
it go.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. But it
And
does
depend
make you
on
stronger.
somebody else. I've always been so dependent,
Yep.
independent on my own, and do things. I get her done one way or the other.
Yep.
So
But now you find yourself talking to God every day about stuff.
I try to.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of things I don't understand about,
Sure.
walking with God through the day, because I don't feel that yet. Because usually I got too many things going on, I mean,
That's right. You can get busy.
get busy and you don't think about it.
Yep. But you're growing and you're learning. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to share your story. And again, thank you for your service. We're all celebrating July 4th today and our freedom. And we're getting to celebrate it because of guys like you. We recognize that. You're the best, bud. I appreciate you. Thanks for what you're doing.
All right. Well, I enjoyed being here.
Thanks for tuning in today. Before you go, remember to hit the like button so more people on YouTube will see this message. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of this great content. We'll see you right here next time with Journey at Home.